folks, welcome back. Today I am working with the Wildwood Tarot. That's what the box looks like. And I'm going to shuffle, and whatever messages Spirit would like to give us today is what I will deliver. I don't use reversals with this deck normally, and Spirit has said that they are not needed with this particular spread. We have the Knight of Arrows, Hawk, watching for a particular message coming, but if you are in an area that has hawks, there may be something significant about seeing a hawk to you personally. It could be a sign from your deities, from your guiding spirits, from your ancestors to go in a particular direction. Just be aware of this. But it's also about being watchful and waiting for your turn to spring into action about a particular thing. Whatever this thing was, it's broken your heart. It's an interesting picture, isn't it? This wooden heart isn't just on fire, it's bleeding too. It's interesting. Perhaps you feel like life has gone past you in many, many ways. And I also feel like Spirit is, in many cases, using a bit of my story to speak with you today. Sometimes focusing on other things takes such precedence that life kind of passes by, or it feels that way. And so you're watching and waiting for things to change. And maybe you're hoping that once things change, then you can kind of start to let go of the pain from the past, that things didn't go the direction that you wanted. Things are going to change for you in the future. This is about the Ace of Bows, about the spark of life, that things are about to go into a new direction. And by the way, I'm laying the cards out 3 in a row, and then I'll lay out 3 columns, if that makes any sense, okay? So the manner in which you move on is important. You can continue to look back at the past and think about how much of it you wish you could have done over. For instance, you can move into the future like that, or you can choose to allow your ego to dissolve and to bring unity to your current self, who was born under the stars that you were, in unity with your higher self. You can move forward like that. And of course, that doesn't mean that there won't still be scars from the past. You still have to look back at the past. I still have to look at the back of the past and say, what I went through, what we went through, genuinely sucked. But there's a new way of doing things coming up in the future, and how we move forward is going to be important. This is normally the Hierophant card in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. This is the ancestor calling you to action. Traditionally, this is known as the Ellen of the Ways, E-L-E-N. And she's guiding you. You'll see the moon in the background. I apologize for this shitty camera. But you can see the moon in the background. You're being guided towards something new. Whether or not this is a new moon or something that's a waning gibbous moon, for instance, is up to you depending on your perspective. It could be both the end of an era and the start of a new one. But you're definitely looking out for an indication that it's time to move on. We are looking for an indication that it's time to move on to the new era that we're meant to travel into. Again, We can choose how we travel into this new era. It's going to be up to us. So Spirit's indicating that I need to take from the top. You've got the Queen of Vessels here, the Salmon, the Queen of Cups. About swimming upstream when maybe other people didn't. It's also about starting a family with this Queen of Vessels, because the only reason the salmon swims upstream is to lay eggs to start a new generation of salmon for us to eat, if you want to play around with that particular symbolism. But it's interesting. I'm getting feminine entities 2 in a row with this particular, and I associate 2 with the High Priestess, and I do feel as though I'm speaking to people who are becoming High Priestesses, if not already have become a certain level of High Priestess or High Priest to some degree or another, okay? And if we can have an in-between term for those who don't identify with those 2 binary gender identities, I would love to know your suggestions in the comments down below if you've got any suggestions, okay? But this is about swimming upstream to possibly start a family. Maybe this is you. Maybe this is something that you wanted. In any case, you're a very sensitive, compassionate person, and you've been burned in the past by previous, possibly romantic relationships. But possibly, it doesn't have to be romantic relationships. It can just be by friendships, possibly, by people that you thought were going to be around for a long time, but then things changed. Possibly they burned down to the ground with people that you thought were going to be in your life for a very long time, and it's deeply painful. In spite of all that, I see you being more likely to move forward in the spirit of letting go of the past than to let it curl you up into a ball and you just kind of die with how things were. Whatever you went through was deeply painful in the past. That is a very powerful 3 of arrows. It's a 3 of arrows for the Wildwood Tarot, but it's also known as the 3 of Swords, as you might have imagined, okay? That's a very powerful card, especially with how this is depicted with this particular deck. But I see you being more likely to follow the path towards starting things in the best light possible. Keep going down the path that you're currently going down, even when it's difficult, okay? We're going to continue to take from the top. You've got the Lovers. This is interesting. Ace of Bows. Somebody's coming to you, and it's going to ask you to behave in a different way possible. It's going to ask you to bring all this emotional maturity to this particular relationship. Be careful about boundaries. The Queen of Vessels is all about water energy also with this fish. That's heavy Pisces energy. I know that we don't have the 2 fishes, but there's a fish that's good enough for me, okay? And this is water on water energy with the Queen of Vessels, okay? So be careful not just to reflect your particular partner, but show your emotional depth, show your emotional maturity, and you're willing to be deeply powerful when the situation arises. Sometimes we take water for granted in the sense that we don't think about how very powerful, even destructive to us humans personally it can be. It can drown us. It can, if we're careful, if we dive into or if we swim in the wrong area, we can be hurt on some rocks, or even seriously hurt, killed on rocks even. Water is powerful, and sometimes it doesn't recognize its own power. You know, I'm getting excuse me, I'm getting the possibility that you might have some powerful water energy in your birth chart. And so this particular person who's coming into your life will complement you in such a way that they may have some heavy earth energy somewhere in their birth chart. So they may have a way to act as a kind of, not boundaries per se, because ultimately each individual needs to be fully in charge of the boundaries for them, okay? but they're going to be able to say, this is where you need to stop and maybe don't invest any more of your emotional energy, Pisces or water sign, Scorpio or Cancer, because this situation doesn't deserve any more of your energy. This is a good time to seek out that kind of partner who will balance you out in such a way that it feels good, that it gives you energy as opposed to draining you of it. And that might have been something that you encountered in past relationships. You might have some really powerful 12th house or 8th house placements. Both of those are associated with 12th house is associated with Pisces, 8th house is associated with Scorpio, 4th house is associated with Cancer, okay? So if you have a lot of energy built up in any of those houses, there may be more of this reading that pertains to you than maybe for some other people, okay? Just keep that in mind. This is going to ask you to behave in a new way that you're not accustomed to, so just be aware of that. Go with the flow. You're probably going to be building a family with this individual. Follow your ancestors, follow your spirit guides. They will, if you choose to be spiritually intelligent, they will lead you to this particular person that you're meant to build a family with. You're meant to be with this person for a lifetime. This is a kind of twin flame energy if you believe in that kind of thing. I respect that some people don't, okay? Here you've got the King of Stones. It was interesting that I just talked about earthy energy. This is earth and fire energy. This is the King of Pentacles, the wolf. So wolves are kind of interesting if you get into them. I love watching wolf cams. Here on YouTube, there are a number of wolf conservatories here in the United States that, and I'm sorry for the ethnocentricity of that particular statement, but there are a number of really cool wolf conservatories that show the social lives of all kinds of different wolf packs, and they're so cool together. So you might think of this as the lone wolf, but that's not the case at all. This is the leader of the pack, but there's also a lot of social intelligence that goes alongside being the male leader of this particular pack. So this may or may not resonate with you, and you could be part of an LGBT particular couple, and in that particular case, take this as much more attached to the kind of leadership versus take a back seat and be an emotionally nurturing kind of individual kind of energies. Let's disassociate that from the gender binary in that particular case and associate more with the characteristics that anybody can have if they are emotionally, mentally, and spiritually intelligent, if they're that kind of mature, okay? But this is definitely suggesting maturity. This is the King of Pentacles. This is an entity that teaches other people how to behave the way that they do. They teach young little wolf cubs how to behave in a particular way that's the most appropriate way that flows with the pack and allows the pack to build itself and not drain resources, if that makes any sense. Here we've got the 9 of Arrows, dedication. So this is about continuing to dedicate yourself on this particular spiritual path of learning to become more deeply compassionate. Take the energies that I have gone through in the past, the pain that we have gone through in the past, whatever our situations may be, they're going to be different, very radically different even for different people. But continue to work with this energy and allow it to emotionally strengthen you, because there's going to be a point that I dropped a 3 of Arrows, by the way, flipped its face upside down. There's going to be a day where you're going to need to turn the energy of the 3 of Arrows into a new energy. And you're going to need to teach other people, younger people, maybe not necessarily in age, but emotionally younger people, spiritually, mentally, definitely, how to take pain and turn it into something that is a strength instead. dedication to the spiritual path in spite of the arrows that are headed your way. That's going to be part of your leadership role. This is anything but a lone wolf. This is someone who shows other people how to navigate the night. There's the moon. Okay. I'm thinking of another iteration of the Nine of Wands. This is specifically in the Numinous Tarot by Cedar McLeod, where this entity is depicted being a watch person at night, keeping watch at night to warn other people, possibly, but maybe there's some incoming news that this particular person is expecting and they need to be alert at all times. This is about service to the path, about being focused in spite of how painful the path may be towards getting towards this particular end point, with the Forest Lover specifically. This is kind of Hanged Man energy. We are in kind of Hanged Man energy if this reading resonates with you. You're about to start something new, but it's not time yet. You're being asked to be in a state of constant meditation before you're moved out of this particular boat. You're the entity in this particular boat. The entity here, I'll try to hold up the one card so it makes more sense. This particular siren, holding up a glowing orb and a mirror, is here to help guide you through this meditative process. So pay attention to dreams if you're someone who does dream quite a bit, but pay attention especially to the downloads that Spirit is giving you, that your ancestors, your deities, your guides are giving you. Okay, pay close attention to that because they are going to be useful later on. In this particular case, 12, the mirror for the Wildwood deck, is the same thing as the Hanged Man. Effectively the same thing. So, for some of you, this might be a heavy reading. For me, it kind of is. This has been a long journey for me, one that started in 2020, and in so many cases, I'm tired. And I'm looking at what's ahead for the astrological transits for this year or next year. And I'm just kind of like, I hope I can get through this, dude. I'm saying that because I just feel like we've got a lot of heavy stuff on the way. And yet, I'm seeing with a reading for you and for me, that dedication to the path and allowing ourselves to be in a suspended state, just getting downloads from the universe is something that we need to do at this time, while things get worse, at least in the United States, okay? So while things get worse, there will be a point where we are asked to not leave our paths, but our spiritual paths change in such a way that we are asked to leave our state of meditation, our hermit-like state even. Wake up. There is an entity in this particular boat. I know that my shitty camera doesn't have that. Show that up. And we're going to be asked to take action, whatever that may be. And it's going to be different for everybody. You need to talk to your ancestors, to your guides, to your deities about what your role in the future is going to be. But likely, if you're listening to this and this reading resonates with you and you're on the path, you are a high priest or a high priestess that I'm speaking to. You already know what you're supposed to do. And you might be struggling with that on one level or another. Or you might not be struggling with that at all. Or maybe you're struggling with the inaction. Stay the course. Advice to you and me. This is going to be worth it. I'm seeing the real possibility that you could have your own family. For some people, it's sooner rather than later. For other people, it's later rather than sooner. It's going to depend on everybody's path. You need to talk to your guides, to your ancestors. You need to practice. It's one thing for you to listen to messages from people like me, but ultimately, This is meant to put you in communication with your own guides, your own ancestors, your own deities, through whatever divination means that may be. And that could just be through prayer, could just be through meditation, or getting out in nature. It doesn't have to be through tarot, or through oracle, or through Lenormand, or anything like that. It's so highly dependent on you and your connection to your guides, to your deities, okay? Stay the course. This isn't going to be easy, but for some people, I feel like the path is going to be shorter than you think it might be. For some of us, we're coming to the tail end of a long journey. For some of the people watching this, you are the high priestess, you are the high priest, but you're just starting your spiritual journey. For some of the people watching this, you may be just starting your Saturn return. And this Saturn return might be wrapping itself around one of the hardest periods in your life. And for that, I feel so deeply for you. I hope that you choose to be the best version of yourself no matter what it is that you're going through. And I hope that you have a community around you who can guide you through your Saturn return. There are all kinds of people who are going through this Saturn return as well. There are subreddits dedicated to people going through their Saturn return. And you may not want to connect with some people. I get that. But I want you to know that you are not alone when it comes to going through difficult time periods in your life. And you're definitely not alone if you're the kind of person who's gone through multiple difficult time periods in your life. The death of an old version of self is never easy, whether it was gradual or sudden, but it is transformative. And with this particular entity, there's this idea that they are sleeping after a difficult battle. This gives the hint that this is a kind of burial boat, not burial boat, one where you might shoot an arrow, kind of like a funeral pyre, a floating funeral pyre in a sense, but this one isn't on fire because this person isn't dead. They're going through a transformative experience. Okay. That's all from me. I hope that if this message reaches you, that you come to a place of healing. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for choosing to listen to the end of this. Take care.